So he started identifying himself as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac. And then we read he was the God of Jacob. Exodus 3:15. Moreover, God said to Moses, thus you say to the children of Israel, the Lord your God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. So he revealed himself through descendants, right? And then it says Jacob's name was changed to Israel. And in Genesis 32:28, and God said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. For you have struggled with God and with men, and have prevailed. And so you start reading through the scriptures, all the way into the New Testament. You read things about the God of Israel. Exodus 24:10. And they saw the God of Israel. And there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, and it was like the very heavens in its clarity. And on and on. You could go all the way through the Bible. Look up, just take the God of Israel and look up the references to God of Israel. See, Israel was to show forth God's glory. His name is synonymous with Israel. Now, I know a lot of people will say, he's the God of America, but I can't claim that he's the God of America anymore. Because there are a lot of people in America that don't believe in the one true God. And I'll tell you, Allah is not Jehovah God, or Yahweh. He's not. Okay? It's actually what Allah means is G-O-D. It's a non-specific name, G-O-D. It's a reference to God, but which God? So if you can't attack and you can't know a name, now by default, those who pray in the name of Jesus to the Father are praying to the God of Israel, whether they know it or not.
That's right.
It's true, right? So there's some New Testament scriptures that says, Nathanael, John 1:49, Nathanael answered and said to him, Rabbi, you are the Son of God, you are the King of Israel. He's the King of Israel. Yes. And yet people despise Israel. He's praying to the Father who is the God of Israel, and they despise Israel. Yeah. You can't despise, you're despising the Father.
That's right.
Church, we need to teach this and let people know, stop coming against Israel, because you're killing yourself, you're cursing yourself, right. You're coming against the one true mighty God, and if you don't know that that God of Israel is the only true God, then you got something to learn.
That's right.
And we can defend it that way. And that's why it's so important to understand that. I can't get into the whole teaching, but I'm just going to say this. You cannot separate Israel from one and only true God. G-O-D does not speak of God. He revealed himself as the God of Israel. There is this thing that I believe, by despising the parent, that a curse comes upon those who do not honor their mother and father. You know what the penalty in the Torah was for dishonoring your mother and father? Death. That's how serious God saw that. And what's happening in the church today is there's a dying. People are like, I know it, and people are hungry for a real experience with God. They don't want a form of God that denies the power. But much of the church has become that, except for those who are really discovering this truth I'm telling you about. You guys have discovered it. You guys have come, I don't know how you came across it, I don't know how you got into it, but you're one of an elect people that are starting to understand this. And what's happening? You're dancing. You know, you're dancing before the God of Israel. You're going to Israel and loving the people, right, with acts of mercy and all that, and fruit is coming out of that. But I'll tell you what, you get more out of it than they do. Because God just blesses you when you start operating that way. You're going to see things that you never saw before when you start calling on Him. But learn to call on the God of Israel in the name of Yeshua. Start seeing the Father as who He really is. That His name is synonymous with the Lamb. Bottom line is this, folks. that nation was formed by God. It's His nation. He gave the boundaries. He formed the nation. And when they disbelieved Yeshua, they were scattered, and it was all prophesied. There's prophecy after prophecy that they would be scattered to the four corners of the world. But there are also prophecies, let me read one, that they would be gathered from the four corners of the world. Now, you know, replacement theology people and others try to say, well, that's talking about Babylon. Well, sorry, it's not. Because it says nations. Every one of these scriptures, and I'm not going to read them all, Isaiah 66:8, Isaiah 11:12, and such. It says, He will set up a banner for the nations and will assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. That's not Babylon. Right? It talks about in Ezekiel 36, For I will take you, the children of Israel, from among the nations, plural, gather you out of all countries, and bring you into your own land. This is all stuff that happened. Now, all I can tell you is that argument might have been a nice little theological argument until 1948, when Israel became a nation again. Right. Those that want to believe in replacement theology, sorry. It's stupid. It's a stupid argument. Israel's there. Now, they're hoping Israel will go away, but I got news for you. Jesus said He's coming back to Israel.
That's right.
He said He's coming back. Just read the book. Read Revelation. He's coming back. He's going to be on the Mount of Olives. He's not going to be in Vatican City.
That's right.
And that's what they believe. They think He's coming to Cherub-Peter. I got a news for you. He's coming to the real Cherub-Peter, which was in Jerusalem. Amen. And He's coming on the Mount of Olives, and He's going to be on that scene. And any of you who went to Israel, look at that beautiful scene that's there, and see the Eastern Gate. He's going to march through the Eastern Gate. There's going to be an earthquake that splits it apart. And it doesn't matter that they put stones there. He's going to walk right through it, and He's going to come there. And the temple will be established, but it won't be a temple like it was before. It says it won't need sacrifices. It won't even need the candlestick lights, because the light will be God Himself in that temple.